and I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Well, hello and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks News Pack for Friday, March the 10th. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks. You can subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As Jim had an appointment yesterday, so did miss the news pack yesterday. But we'll touch on that. Some things that happened yesterday, some things happened. A lot happened today. Some very interesting news came out. It was the AHL trade deadline. The Calgary Wranglers made a move. The Vancouver Canucks have signed a draft pick. And, of course, we'll get into what happened with the Philadelphia Flyers. And there is some WHL news as well. Just a couple of things from Wednesday to discuss here and that we didn't touch on that did happen. I wanted to get into a little bit, just very briefly. Connor Bedard continues again to have an amazing season, the surefire, obvious number one pick. A lot of why fans are wanting their team to lose is because of this generational talent that it's been a long time that, quite frankly, we've seen this in the WHL anyway. 8th WHL player in history to score 60 goals in one season. He did that. Of course, other names that have done it were Pavel Brendel back in 1999, Cliff Ron with the Calgary Hitmen, New Westminster Bruin Cliff Ronning back in 83-84, Joe Sakic from the Swift Current Broncos in 86-87, Dave Passon scored 68 in 83-84, Pat Falloon back in 89-90 scored 60, and Dale Durkach back in 1982. And so Connor Bedard puts himself in a very special place in WHL history, so congratulations to him, and we will watch. That was some of the big news from Wednesday as well. One other thing from Wednesday to talk about is the Women's World roster came out for Canada. Rebecca Johnson, who does some work with the Calgary Flames, is on that team, and of course she'll be part of that, as well as you got Marie-Philippe Plan again back, Sarah Fillier again, Christian Campbell back as well, and so only Daniel Serdashny, who's 21, was the only player that has not played in a world championship before. So that starts on April 5th to 16th. That is in Brampton. We'll get to the NHL story. We'll start with the Flames. Of course, they are playing the Anaheim Ducks tonight. And Jacob Markstrom getting a call again. Of course, the Flames had a couple of days off. They coming off that 1-0 shootout win over the Minnesota Wild. And, of course, they beat the Dallas Stars with 6 seconds to go as well. So they're riding their first winning streak since January. So they will be basically running that same lineup that they have been running here So the Lions, of course, Lindholm with Pelche and Toffoli, Kadri, Nick Ritchie, Jonathan Huberdeau, Michael Backlund, Andre Mangiapane, Blake Coleman, and then Dylan Dubé with Milan Lucic and Trevor Lewis. And then, of course, defensively, Anderson and Uyghur, and Hanifin and Tanev, Zadorov and Stetcher, as well as, of course, Markstrom starting in goal. Ducks coming off the 3-2 overtime loss to the Vancouver Canucks, and it will be John Gibson back in goal for the Ducks. Lucas Dostal played against Vancouver. Their lines: Mason McTavish, Max Jones, Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, Ryan Strome, Brock McGinn, Isaac Lundstrom, Frank Petrano, Jacob Silverberg, Derek Grant, Max Comtois, Brett Leeson. And then on defense, Cam Fowler with Scott Harrington, Simone Benoit, Kevin Shattenkirk, Colton White, and Nathan Beaulieu. So the Flames currently, in terms of this playoff race, got a bit of a break last night because the Arizona Coyotes beat the Nashville Predators last night. So that helps them a little bit. They also had the LA Kings beat the Colorado Avalanche, who, I mean, some people are knocking them, are clinching them into the playoffs. They have lost 4 of their last 5 games. So I don't know. I guess in terms of result, I think people are giving the Colorado Avalanche a lot of the benefit of the doubt because the Stanley Cup champions, and they should be in the playoffs, and I would expect them to be in the playoffs, and I would expect them to compete, at least win a round no matter where they are. But they have not been playing very consistently. I think a lot of people came out of that Calgary Flame game that they dominated in a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday night, thinking that the Avalanche were back, and they seem to be stumbling along. So they lost to the Kings. So the Flames are currently 4 points behind Winnipeg and 5 points behind Colorado in terms of getting the second wild card spot. They're 9 points behind the Oilers for the first wild card spot with a game in hand, but the Oilers have won 4 of 5, and I think probably they made their statement victory yesterday, down 2-0 to the Boston Bruins, the best team in the league all season. No points from Connor McDavid, and we're able to come away with a 3-2 victory. So it feels, you got the Oilers, they've got the Leafs next. Feels like the Oilers are in a playoff position. The Kraken lost fun game to the Ottawa Senators last night. Senators jumped up to a 3-0 lead. The Kraken scored 4 in a row to win, to take the 4-3 lead, but the Senators tied it, and then got a late goal from Alex DeBrincat that went off a Will Borgen and in. So the Kraken lost, but really at this point, the Pacific Division title is between Vegas, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Edmonton. Calgary, I think, is battling, obviously, for that second wild card spot. If they get absolutely on a roll, that's where they're going. Winnipeg, they have Florida and Tampa Bay and Carolina for the next 3 games. They're on that road trip. So that's where the Flames are at. Of course, with Anaheim, they're in the Connor Bedard's battle here. They are 2 points ahead of Chicago for last. It is Chicago with 49 points, San Jose with 50 points, and Anaheim with 51 points in the Western Conference. And in terms of what that looks like right now, Columbus is leading the way with the 47 points. So the 4 points separate Columbus and Anaheim from the basement of the National Hockey League. This is a need-to-win game for the Flames. Obviously, you have to get this win. You're not going to. You need to get this just flat out. This is a must-win game. Can't waste. They've wasted far too many points against teams like Columbus and Chicago this year. They have to. It's quite simple. They have to continue to do that. As far as Vancouver, they're in action tomorrow against those Ottawa Senators. The Senators will play the Flames on Sunday, so we'll see what happens. Some Canuck news in terms of a player signing today, and there was some update as well on another one here. one other player. So the Canucks have signed a 7th round pick. It is his name. Make sure that we pronounce this correctly. Is Kirill. Is his first name? Kudryavtsev. He is, of course, signed to a 3-year entry-level deal. He is, so he's joined. He's signed his agreement. General Manager Patrick Allvin announced that today, and he's appeared in 60 games with the Sioux Greyhounds. He's 19, third in overall on the team and scoring, first on points, 6 goals, 39 assists, 45 points. Debuted last season with the Greyhounds, 5 goals, 34 assists, 39 points, plus 3. He played all 68 regular season games, skated and played also in 10 playoff games with 4 assists. He's a native of Russia, spent 1 season in junior Russia, and played by was part of the 2020 Youth Olympic Games where Russia took home the gold medal. 7th round pick, 208th overall in the 2022 NHL entry draft, 5'11", 200 pounds. And you know what? These are the kind of things that the Canucks need to find. It's great to get first round picks, and we can have all of the discussion about how important those high level picks are. Successful teams find gems in lower rounds. Tampa Bay has done very well at that. And Vancouver, I'm not saying this guy's going to be a gem, but it's a good sign that they are signing a 7th round pick. I think that's a good sign. Still a long ways to go when you're looking at Vancouver. Still a lot of things, we'll get into that on Sunday. We were going to do a podcast last night. We are tentatively scheduled for Sunday. And it's sort of so that, getting that is helping. The name Aidan McDonough has been mentioned. Rick Dollywell reported today that the Canucks are close on signing Aidan McDonough. Thomas Drance did as well. So that is a guy that we could see in the lineup. Looks like that there was an expectation from the reporting that I'm hearing McDonough would play some games in the big club. But we'll see where he fits in terms of Abbotsford. Or where he fits next season. So another guy that you can put and create some competition on that Vancouver Canucks lineup. That is the Flames news. That is the Canucks news. One other game tonight involving the Chicago Blackhawks, aforementioned 49 points, taking on the Florida Panthers, who are 4 points behind the Pittsburgh Penguins for that second wild card spot. Of course, with Pittsburgh, they have not been able to shake away the New York Islanders at all this year. They had a 3-1 lead going into the second period, or the third period, and the Islanders come away with the 3-2 overtime win. Brock Nelson with the overtime winner. Big save, big block from Ilya Sorokin. Nelson comes in, turns around and scores. So you've got Washington kind of hanging in there. You got Buffalo, who lost 10-4, hanging in the East. Buffalo lost 10-4 to Dallas yesterday. And then, of course, you got the Ottawa Senators as well. So, big game. That's, if you're a Florida Panthers fan, that's a game you need to win tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. The other news is, the big news in the NHL today, of course, was in Philadelphia. Chuck Fletcher has been fired as GM. And, of course, they held a season ticket holder town hall, and he was booed off the stage, and it just got worse. And the Flyers were going to move on from him, it sounds like, from the end of the year, but they've given Danny Briere the interim general manager's role. A lot of people feel that he is going to be the new GM. He is a former Flyer. He's been in that organization for a long time. Comcast really likes him. Comcast, of course, owns the Flyers, so he would be the number one candidate. Of course, 4.5 seasons Fletcher was on the job, 141, 145, and 43, one playoff berth, and 24, 30, and 11 this season. This is, of course, under Tortorella, and they will miss the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in 3 seasons, which does not go well in Philadelphia, obviously. And you had the Tony DeAngelo incident this week. No trades during the trade deadline. It's just, I think, for the Flyers and Chuck Fletcher, probably time to move on. I would guess this was a year too late. Be interesting to see what they do with John Tortorella, if the new GM, whoever that is, if it is Danny Briere, keeps Tortorella on. The Flyers have been a very stagnant franchise for a really long time, and I think that's the fan base that is getting restless, especially when you see the Eagles go on a Super Bowl run, the Phillies go on a World Series run, the 76ers could be a contender in the NBA. The Flyers cannot, business-wise, cannot lag behind. It's a really, you have to win in Philly. You can't lose in Philly. It's tough to be a rebuilding type of organization. But so we'll see what happens in Philly there. And we'll go to the AHL. It was the trade deadline today. The Calgary Wranglers did make a move. They've acquired defenseman Christian Rubens from Ottawa. So Rubens, he cannot play with the Calgary Flames here. But he is a 25-year-old player, played with the Medicine Hat Tigers in here for his, so he's a former Western leaguer and shoots left, big guy, 6'5", 227, 227 pounds. Sounds like a guy that Mr. Daryl Sutter will enjoy. And but the Wranglers are at 40 wins. The Wranglers have a chance to be a championship team, so you do want to add. He was not drafted into the National Hockey League. He's played most of his AHL has been with the Toronto Marlies this year. Sorry, he played with Belleville this year. 2 goals for 6 points in 42 games. So we'll see what happens. 2 seasons with the Tigers back in 17-18 after 4 years in playing his junior hockey in Sweden. So he is coming. So that's the acquisition. 1 year, $750K. So that's part of the AHL trade deadline. And that's what happened there. That's the news from the Wrangler/Flame side, AHL side. In terms of any other moves that happened, it's obviously not as big as other there, but we've got Carolina, of course, Chicago receiving Jack Dugan for Zach Hayes, and Dylan Bilios was traded from Belleville to Utica. That was pretty much it that happened today. As far as the AHL goes, we see what happens is going on there. As of course, the Wranglers, of course, getting to 40 wins, Abbotsford as well. But let's see what's going on. Let's have a look at what's going on here as 5 weeks are left in the regular season in the AHL. And you've got tonight, few games going on. We'll start here as we go from. Sorry, computer slowly moving here as we've got Bridgeport taking on Charlotte. We got Rockford taking on Grand Rapids. Laval taking on Syracuse. Belleville taking on Utica. Hartford taking on Rochester. Providence taking on Springfield. Las Vegas taking on Wilkes-Barre. Tucson and Milwaukee. And San Jose taking on Bakersfield. The Wranglers in action tonight against the Ontario Reign. As well as Henderson taking on the San Diego Gulls. Far as the Abbotsford Canucks, they are in. Oops, sorry, my computer slipped there. There for those that are watching, they are in action Saturday against Colorado, and that's a big game as those teams are tied for third in the Pacific Division. As far as the WHL goes, we talked about Connor Bedard getting 60 goals. The other news was surrounding the Moose Jaw Warriors. There's been an investigation going on about an incident earlier this season and involving some players. And the WHL did release a tweet that announced what was an update on that investigation. And they announced that today's actions pertaining to the Moose Jaw Warriors following the completion of an independent investigation into the violations of team rules and WHL standard of conduct policies. And the subsequent news is the sanctions are all 4 Moose Jaw players involved in the incident, Connor Unger, Max Wayner, Lyndon Lakovich, Merrick Howell, have been suspended for the balance of the WHL regular season. The Warriors have 7 games left. The season ends on the 26th. General Manager Jason Ripplinger, head coach Mark O'Leary have been suspended for 5 regular season games, and the club has been fined $25,000. It goes on to say the conduct of the players was not found to be criminal in nature. The conduct was determined to be a violation of team and league rules, including the WHL standard conduct policies and personal conduct policy, in order to be reinstated by the WHL following the completion of this suspension. The 4 Moose Jaw Warrior players will be required to complete further personal conduct and respect training. And out of respect of all the parties involved, the WHL cannot provide further details. So it just, of course, in the background, it was the Edmonton Police Service confirmed the incident is not criminal in nature. That's where the reported incident happened. So that's the news coming out of Moose Jaw in terms of what's going on. A few games going on. The Saskatoon Blades are taking on the Prince Albert Raiders tonight. We've got, in terms of the standings, the Blades have been hot. I'm going to put them in the dark horse category and by the way, they have clinched a playoff spot, the Blades. They play the Regina Pats if the playoffs started today. So that'd be an interesting little matchup. But you got that. You've got Lethbridge is in action today against the Swift Current Broncos. The Edmonton Oil Kings are taking on the Winnipeg Ice. Connor Bedard's Regina Pats are in Lethbridge to take on the Hurricanes. The Calgary Hitmen are taking on the Red Deer Rebels. And the Rebels, of course, leading the way in the Central Division. The Hitmen are in a battle for a playoff spot with the Swift Current Broncos. And as well, Blazers taking on the Everett Silvertips. The Vancouver Giants are in Kelowna taking on the Rockets. The Seattle Thunderbirds host the Tri-City Americans. And the Portland Winterhawks will take on the Spokane Chiefs. And finally, in Victoria, the Victoria Royals will host the Prince George Cougars. And as 7 teams in the Western Conference have clinched playoffs: Seattle, Kamloops, Portland, Prince George, Everett, Tri-City, Vancouver. Final spot looking like Kelowna has a 12-point lead over Victoria. So Kelowna is in the driver's seat and clinching that. In the West, the East, 3 teams have clinched a playoff spot. That's Winnipeg Red Deer, who have clinched the Central, and Saskatoon. Moose Jaw is in 4th, Lethbridge in 5th, Regina in 6th, Medicine Hat 7th, Swift Current 8th, and then you got the Hitman, Wheat Kings, and the Prince Albert Raiders. Looks like that's going to be the battle for 7-8. The Tigers at 61 points. So those 5 teams will spend the stretch run battling for those final 2 spots. But that will be the news for today. That is Friday, March the 10th. We're scheduled to be back on Sunday to do a podcast. So join us for that during the day. You can follow us all individually on Twitter. Tyler TNOBLE, Sean Beardy Canucks 03, Christian Schneids SCHNAIDZ, Devin Gordhow 09. I am KEVOLE. Shifts and Pucks on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. We thank you for watching. We thank you for listening. We will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.